Hey guys! I will be talking about Slender Man. So originally Slender Man became a thing in 2009, and Slender Man's a creepypasta, which is basically like scary stories told online. He was created and posted on a forum called Something Awful by a man named Eric Knudsen? I'm sorry. Eric. He did it for a photo contest. Here are the original photos that Eric posted on this forum. Slender Man is known as a very unnaturally tall, featureless person. Stands at 14 feet tall. He is very thin, and his arms and legs are very lanky and long. His hands, they usually extend and can turn into tentacles. And he is usually wearing a suit. Because he doesn't have a fixed canon, it really depends on what source you're getting your story from, because he changes obviously from person to person. He's usually found in a forest or an abandoned place. Main target is usually children or young adults. It's said that when you get in a certain proximity to Slender Man, you get the slender sickness, which results in rapid onset paranoia, nightmares, delusions, and nosebleeds. You know he's close because besides all of those things affecting you, he also interferes with video and audio recordings. It's claimed that investigating Slender Man will draw his attention, and some stories Slender Man has proxies, which are basically like little minions. A human falls under his control and they usually become violently insane. Slender Man is a fictional character, and he's like the boogeyman, you know? He's the one that if you open your eyes and roll over, he's gonna be standing over you in bed. He's the one that if you're walking alone in the woods, you're gonna see him off in the distance. So although Slender Man is a fictional character, he's a creepypasta, which is fictional. It's a bunch of scary stories, as I mentioned, put online. Scary stories you tell by a campfire, but in an online forum. So the cool thing about that is whenever so many different people can add or take away from that story. So many different people can take it and twist it into something that they want. So although we established that Slender Man is a fictional character, there are actual real-life cases. For instance, in 2014, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, on May 31st, two 12-year-old girls brought another one of their friends into the woods and stabbed her 19 times. The two assailants were Anissa Wire and Morgan Geyser. The victim, her name was Peyton Luther, otherwise known as Bella. They lured her into the woods and they were playing hide and seek, and Anissa told Bella to get down on the ground so they could hide. Bella didn't want to, but Anissa got her on the ground and was sitting on top of her. And when interviewed, Anissa was like, okay, well, if I stay sitting on top of her, then Morgan can come in and stab her. He stabbed her 19 times, and amazingly, this girl survived. They stabbed her and they're like, oh, well, we'll go get help, we're gonna go get help, and then they just left. So she had to drag herself to the road, where she was later found by, I believe he was a cyclist, where he called 911. When asked why they stabbed their friend, Anissa and Morgan said they did it so they could impress Slender Man, and if they didn't, he would kill their families. So before this attack, the girls planned on attacking Bella 2 other times. One at the night before at the slumber party they were at. They were at Morgan's house. They're having a slumber party, and they're like, oh, we'll stab her, and then we'll put her under the blanket so it looks like she's sleeping, and then we'll leave. Well, that didn't happen. So then they thought, okay, well, we'll do it at the park. So they went to the park, and they went into the bathroom, because they thought there was a drain in the bathroom so that all the blood and stuff could drain down there, and then they would like put her up on a toilet and just lock the door and leave. That didn't work. they told Peyton or Bella to put herself to sleep. Anissa said that she read somewhere that it was easier to kill someone when they were asleep. That way you can't see their eyes, because when you look into their eyes, it's a reflection of yourself and you don't want to kill yourself. So she asked Bella to put herself to sleep. And also because she didn't want to deal with screaming. I don't like screaming. I can't handle that, is what she said when she was being interviewed by the investigators. They couldn't go forward with it. It wasn't working. So they're like, let's play hide and seek. And that's when they went out into the woods. Bella didn't want to play hide and seek, but they said, okay, well, you can pick the game afterwards. Let's just play around to hide and seek, and then you can pick the next game. Bella was pinned down and stabbed with a 5-inch long kitchen knife. 2 of her 19 wounds were they hit major arteries, and then 1 missed her heart by less than a millimeter. It went down and it actually cut the tissue right above one of the main arteries and ventricles of the heart, but it didn't actually hit the heart. So if it would have went down even just a millimeter more, she would have bled out in a minute. But luckily for her, the girl did not go that deep. The other 2 girls were found near Interstate 94, and they still had the knife in their backpack. They still had a knife in their possession. They were found walking towards this interstate, and they said they were walking towards the woods where Slender Man's mansion was, because they had to kill Bella so they could get in with Slender Man and live in his mansion that him and all the other creepypasta characters live in, which is fictional. And they had to kill Bella to, like, prove their worthiness to this guy. Also, so he wouldn't kill their families. 2017, Anissa Weir, I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing her name wrong. She pleaded guilty to being part of an attempted second-degree homicide. She's found not guilty by mental disease or defect, and was sentenced to 25 years to life and at least 3 years locked in confinement and involuntary treatment in a state psychiatric institute, as well as communal supervision until the age of 40. So if she got out, then until the age of 40 she had to be supervised. Morgan Geyser didn't go to trial, but she was instead just evaluated by a psychiatrist and was found not guilty by reason of insanity. She was sentenced to 40 years to life and at least 3 years locked in confinement, as well as involuntary treatment in a state psychiatric institute until complete resolution of symptoms or until the age of 53, whichever one of those came first. She also would have to have supervision and periodic reevaluations after she was let out. After this incident, the creepypasta community actually worked to raise money for Peyton or Bella, and they held a 24-hour live stream and gave all the profits for her treatment, as well as the city of Madison, Wisconsin, held a bratwurst festival, which all the money gave to her family to help cover medical costs. I wasn't sure if this was in total both of these or just the bratwurst, but I'm gonna say just the bratwurst, but I could be wrong. It could be a combination of both of these fundraisers, but it said they raised over $70,000 for Peyton's treatment and medical costs. A documentary film on the incident was made. This film was called Beware the Slender Man, and it was featured on HBO. So when they were going to stab their friend, both of the girls essentially chickened out. And Anissa was supposed to be stabbing Peyton, but then she couldn't do it, so she gave it to Morgan, sorry. Morgan asked her what she should do, and Anissa said, just go ballistic, go crazy. When the investigators asked Morgan why they stabbed Peyton, why they chose Peyton, Morgan in her interview said it was necessary. Okay, now I watched this interview, and the way she said this gave me chills. She was just totally plain, like, matter of fact, it was necessary for her to stab her friend. And throughout this whole interview, she did not show any emotion, anything that would point to the fact that she felt sorry about this. When her mom was interviewed, her mom said that when she was a child, she didn't act and respond in ways that you would expect a little girl to act and respond. If something bad happened, she wouldn't really have empathy for anything. In the interview, Morgan asked, is Bella dead? And when she was told that Peyton or Bella was taken to the hospital, she looked shocked. Like she was surprised to see that her friend was still alive, and then she said, I was just wondering. So Anissa, in her interview, actually, she asked the woman who was interviewing her, she asked how far she walked. She said, because I'm not usually athletic, I just want to know. And then, or do you know how far that would be? And she was just sitting there, she was more concerned over how far she walked than what her and her other friend just did. During their interviews, both girls kept pointing fingers at each other. They're like, oh, well, Anissa said this. Oh, well, Morgan said this. And, oh, we had to do this because she said this. And they've been planning this attack since December. The police went through Anissa's search history, and it was disturbing. It was disturbing if you look at what they did and then look back at her search history. It was disturbing. Her search history itself, I wouldn't say was disturbing because I was into similar things when I was her age, and I know there's tons of people who are into similar things, you know, like the creepypasta and psychopath tests online, and would post it on her Google Plus account, and it'd be like, oh, I scored 100% or whatever. And I mean, you can't really take those things seriously. I take those like, oh, what type of bread are you? I take those kind of tests all the time, and you can't take them seriously. They're not an actual like diagnosis or anything. If you take one like, are you a serial killer? Are you a psychopath? But the fact she took so many of them, and then she would post them and say how she got basically was rated as a psychopath, and it was just disturbing to look at now after what she did. At her actual school, Anissa got bullied a lot. When she was asked to describe what stabbing Bella felt like, Morgan said it didn't feel like anything, it was like air, as she was making stabbing motions. During their the trial things, well, not the actual trial, but their sentencing, Morgan, the psychiatrist, they had to go up on stand and basically tell them what they've diagnosed these girls with. Morgan was diagnosed with schizophrenia, unspecified, and oppositional defiant disorder, as well as asthma. So, I plan on doing a whole separate video on schizophrenia, but it usually onsets in your 20s. Schizophrenia is a disorder that affects a person's ability to think, feel, and behave clearly. And it's usually brought on by a combination of genetic things as well as stress. From what I saw in the interviews, Morgan showed a lot of positive symptoms of delusion and negative symptoms of blunted affect and asociality. She was asocial. The doctors, obviously, they saw more symptoms. They were able to go more into detail, but that's just from what I've seen just watching their interview. So that's all I have on this case, and I wanted to once again say Slender Man is a product of creepypasta. He's not a real character. But when someone has a mental disorder, and when someone's at the age that these girls were, it's hard sometimes to tell the difference between reality and fiction. Therefore, things like this can happen. I'm not saying everyone who looks up creepypasta is going to go stab their best friend, nor am I saying that anyone with a mental illness is going to go stab their best friend. So I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up. You don't have to, but you know, I like them. They're pretty cool. Comment below any other videos you'd like to see from me, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Also, all the links to my social medias will be down below. And yeah, that's all I have. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day.